Welcome to Light Over Heat with Professor David Yamani. Today I want to talk about how I fell for guns. As many of you know, the whole purpose of the book Gun Curious is to tell the story of how I fell for guns and the process I went through over the next many years to become a responsible gun owner, explaining in a more broad sense why guns make sense to those who own them. And so it's both a very personal story, but it's also a story that has lessons beyond just my own idiosyncrasies. And I do hear from a lot of people that one part or another of my story resonates with them, but also people who are lifelong gun owners who didn't have this experience of falling for guns as a 42-year-old. Also, the story has resonance for them. I think my story also has lessons for my fellow sociologists. Now, I really made my reputation within sociology of guns for stealing Michael Bane's concept of gun culture 2.0 and empirically documenting it across a number of publications. And I think my focus on defensive gun ownership is appropriate because that's very central to what gun culture is today. But it's also, as I've been, thinking about more since Gun Curious was published, it's also a limiting framework because people own guns for so many different reasons. And I've recently been exploring hunting in a series of Substack posts, and I went to the Smith & Wesson Collectors Association annual meeting this summer. And so I'm really learning a lot more and thinking a lot more about those gun culture 1.0 practices. But I think even at a more fundamental level, the pleasure and enjoyment people get, both individually and collectively, in shooting is something that is really fundamental, regardless of whether you're a hunter or a recreational shooter or a competition shooter or even a defensive gun owner like myself, right? So I own guns for defensive purposes, but I didn't fall for guns initially because of their self-defense capacity. And I think a lot of people who are defensive gun owners, that's not necessarily their primary connection to their firearms. They have them for defensive purposes, but if they didn't go out and have fun shooting on the range or honing their skills or spending time with other people who share their interests, the gun might just sit staged in their home, for that worst possible moment of their life and otherwise not really get much attention. So this is an aspect of guns and gun ownership that I really wanted to play up in this essay, How I Fell for Guns, which was published this week in the American Sociological Association's journal called Context. Now, before you go running for the door, hearing American Sociological Association and journal, let me assure you that this journal is really designed as a public-facing magazine where sociologists try to take their thought and make it presentable to a broad audience. So this piece is just 2,100 words across 3 pages in very approachable prose that cobbles together various ideas I've presented elsewhere, but really tries to make it into a compelling story. Again, how did I fall for guns? So whether you are interested in a compelling story, whether you know some people who are gun curious, maybe a family member or a friend or a colleague, please share this with them. I will put a link to the document in the show notes here. Note that this article will be open access for a month, so until November 17th, anybody can access this document, and I really encourage you to access the document from the link to the journal's homepage because metrics matter, and I'd love to see this piece skyrocket to the top of the most read and downloaded pieces in the Context Journal. Thank you for your interest in this. Thank you for your support of my work. And please let me know if you have a chance to read the essay, what you think about it.